Kyle, people have been asking us for this video for quite a while now, so let's just get right to the chase. We're going to do some recap videos of our game because the special thing about our game is we started midway through. Kyle, we started, I got to hear, our game, session 59, is episode 1 on our channel.
Yeah, session 59 of now quite a lot, actually.
But I wanted to say we're at currently session 113, which would be episode 56. So we wanted to go back and tell you about those episodes before session 59.
Yeah, starting way back in November 2017.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, so much has changed, but our characters have like grown and evolved. And I think the cool part through a pandemic, through breakups, through life stuff, our game's been there. Our game's been the best escape. I know personally, and I think you echo that too.
100%. We've mentioned that in some of our other videos that D&D was a big escape, especially through a pandemic. But for myself, it was something that I had only ever played and tried once as a player in your one game we played.
Yep.
A few months.
Do you remember your guy's name?
Vindar, I think.
Vindar, that's right. Yeah, Vindar.
Air Genasi Barbarian.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
You had two.
I had two. I had a ranger.
I know. Yeah.
Don't remember. He sucked. I couldn't hit a thing.
Yeah, you did not like him.
No, I was not.
Basically, we played 2 games maybe that I ran.
That's right.
Very heavily inspired by Attack on Titan. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd like DM before, but I had no idea where the story was going. Just wanted to get into it. We both liked Critical Role. We talked about it at work.
Definitely.
But I very quickly passed the reins to you. I said,
it was quick where we were talking and we were trying to schedule the third game now that I'm kind of replaying it in my mind. And between the group of us, we couldn't come down with a time, and you were being admittedly a little wishy-washy on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, man, I love this already. I'll take it from you. You give me a couple of weeks. I'm gonna get something ready. And you were like, go do it.
I was so happy because I felt such stress in the DM chair and I felt exhausted. Like I know you do. You talk about the DM hangover the next day, but I loved playing way more than my attempts at DMing.
And I very quickly, honestly, fell in love with DMing. I've always been a big fan of everything fantasy and this. And I've always wanted to try and be a bit of a writer and creator, and just never found my kind of drive to really sit with a book, and never had tried world building to this level. And then when given this kind of opportunity where yourself and Leah and Brock and Kevin were on board to jump into a game, and we had another player in us in the early games, a friend of ours named Rico. He dropped off in this kind of first arc that we'll talk about in this recap. But we had a core group that wanted to go forward. So I was like, I'm going to put some actual effort and some time into this. And from that came Visaria. It was an entirely homebrew world, fully created, with heavy, obvious inspiration from Critical Role and Lord of the Rings, and all of the major obvious inspirations of a first-time DM. Just thievery left and right. But my kind of core concept was also stolen, obviously, of course it is, but I was really into supernatural at the time. And I don't know, I think it was past this point in the actual show when we were writing this in 2017, but there is an arc in Supernatural of some evil devil is trying to unleash the gates of hell and let loose Lucifer into the world. And I just loved the show, and I loved that concept, and thus came the idea of like, well, what if that happened in a D&D world? And then it was the Four Seals, the Revenant Vow, and Asmodeus trying to break through into the material plane to claim it as a 10th layer of hell.
And I remember you going on your honeymoon. I remember attending your wedding with the rest of the party, and you going on your honeymoon. And I remember Leah saying, like, you'd sit on the beach, get your notebook out, and just create this world and just slowly flesh it out from there.
Yeah, we've got just random sticky notes from our room that I have just like small versions of the map drawn of different provinces.
War against orcs. And
Just a bunch
slide
of
it in.
shit. But yeah, a lot of thought went in on that honeymoon. And so actually Leah was actually a very influential in like helping to shape elements of the world, specifically the province of Xander and Arendelle, kind of the capital city, that we eventually get to relatively early on. It's kind of our first major stop. But before we get that, we started in a very small village and in a tavern because it seemed appropriate. In a small village called Fairweather. And my inspiration to kind of draw you all together rather than happenstance was to have all of your characters having these kind of dreams and these similar dream sequences of kind of vague disaster and something occurring and like a call to action, seemingly from most of you putting together the idea that some godly divine presence trying to draw you in to something, and everyone kind of took the bait and came to this city, this village of Fairweather, where while you guys all kind of came together and found one another through a little bit of awkward chatter in a tavern, an attack happened on the village, and we introduced our big bad that potentially you guys didn't know was going to be 113 sessions later still kicking.
I thought we had this kid on the ropes in our first game.
Throat tier.
Before you go a little further,
okay.
I just wanted to walk down. So I have in my notes, Fairweather, the Order, and then I have the characters here just to bring them. Hando the Blue. Yep. He was a pirate who knew Gord. They were buddies. That was it. Mm-hmm. And then I have Gord Dunsworth, cat guy,
druid.
He was a druid from the start. Yeah, that's right. I have B. Bartholomew Hammerstock, which was our one player who unfortunately couldn't keep playing with us. What was he, a cleric?
He was a knowledge domain cleric, dwarf, yeah.
Yeah, and then I have
rolled horribly,
Mary.
Terrible build.
Yeah, it was terrible. I was like, can't heal us. He just learns from books. Valentine was not a fan. And then we had Mary from Arendelle, no last name. We're still working on that last name, right, Mary? And then Valentine Wild, the bard. Good point from our producer, Mary/Leah in the background here. We will try not to give any spoilers past episode 1. If you watch these first, we might reference something, but good note, we will try not to give any spoilers past that. Not a spoiler, throw tier, still a big bad. He is a big bad.
That's not a spoiler whatsoever.
Yeah, so I remember goblins attacking. I remember being drawn away. And I remember very, very being drawn to a church where we knew these villagers were kept. And I remember coming up with a plan with the rest of the party to attack this church. And I think we spooked a horse and cart, and the cart crashed into the church, and then we all raided it.
Yeah, you guys... So this church, this was a temple of Soon,
that's right,
the goddess of love and beauty, and it was being used as essentially like a ritual purpose that Throtir, our Revenant Vow kind of leader, this cult leader, was in the process of trying to break this first seal. And what does happen over 15 to 20 sessions from this point on, the first seal was to raise this dragon, and this draconic lineage of this dragon named Null was to raise this dragon and bring it back into the world to be used as a harbinger of pestilence, kind of using a 4 horsemen type deal for each of these seals. So Throtir was essentially using Fairweather, using the goblins and hobgoblins as like the initial kind of antagonists to try and bring these people in to. It didn't matter what temple it was. It would just happen to be a temple. It was like corrupt the temple and use them as sacrifices to kind of empower this orb that he would then use to imbue all those souls to raise a dragon and break that first seal.
And then I have here in my notes, then we met Neavir. Remember we met this elven woman. She was very mysterious. Is she bad? Is she good? And that became kind of like the 5th, 6th rotating member of our party, an NPC you played, who we've talked about, just dies before episode 1.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she does meet her end before we actually kicked off the streamed campaign. She was actually an Aasimar, and
That's right.
a connection to Pelor, and she from the beginning, I was playing her very kind of shadowy and coy,
Cagey,
cagey, but was being kind of your guide through this, and had knowledge of what was happening here with Throatier and the Seals, but didn't want to give you the whole spiel until she kind of was playing it to confirm that you guys were going to go along, that you were kind of heroic and worthy, so to speak. So she kind of gave you a challenge to go to Arendelle and meet her there for more. That
was it. So we go to Arendelle, and that's the good thing, because early on, I think I was the only one with D&D experience. Hando was brand new. Gord, Brock, brand new. Leah, brand new. You obviously, just like you said, brand new. Yeah. But what the hard part about our characters, we had these crazy fucking pirate twins who were just all over the place. They hadn't really found out where even their sense of right and wrong and morality was.
Which comes into play heavily in the early couple of sessions.
Yeah. And so we were trying to be like, why would we stick together? Val and Mary were like, okay, we're doing something here. We can see there's a quest. But early on, it was figuring that out. And having Neavir help guide us to the next stage definitely helped out our party sticking together.
Yeah. And that was, as a first-time DM, I had trouble trying to wrap my head around that as well. So my solve was, I'll give you a clearly intriguing NPC who is giving you the kind of the path to follow, and it's entirely up to you guys how you want to go from there, right? It's entirely I do intended from the beginning to leave this as sandboxy and open as possible, and we'll get to it in a few minutes. You guys do that, and for better or worse. But Neavir was the glue to try and tie the group together, because I knew Kevin and Brock especially were thinking about D&D, and we're thinking about this game very Skyrim, very much like a video game where consequences
very like Grand Theft Auto-y, you know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, there were no
they didn't
kill
an
consequences
NPC,
to their actions, and it was kind of hard reactions when I was like, yeah, the guards are bearing down on you. What do you stuff like that, and they're just like,
we have to do something? Like, why? Yeah, exactly.
So early learning curve, but we all kind of got out of it together. But yeah, we
travel to Arendelle.
Travel to Arendelle. We go through some small villages on the route. We have a couple of small adventures to kind of group the party together, give you guys a little bit of low level adventure and kind of level you up a bit. And we did start at level 3. I should mention that as well. For my comfortability level as a DM, I think at level 1 somebody would have died and I would have felt bad about it. Level 3, you get some cooler abilities. You feel more of like a formed character. Exactly. You're still shit, but you're a little better than average Joe.
Just like you mentioned in your first game as that ranger, similarly, I played a level 1 years ago, like decades ago. And I remember being so frustrating because I couldn't hit shit. And I was like, this game is really annoying. I can't do anything. Level 1's tough.
Combat can be tough as an early player, and with only one action at a time. It's with just like one arrow, it's over. All right, I guess I'll sit here for 10 minutes and do nothing.
Great, yeah.
It takes a long time to get into it, but once you get into it, it's the best game in the world.
So Neavir guided us to this Temple of the Dawn, and we should explain what Arendelle is. It's the capital city of Saria.
Capital city of Xander.
Yeah.
And is where the seat of the king, the royal family line of the Dalarians has held the royal line here as far back as any of you had any previous knowledge, and as far as I had ever thought. So I don't know what happened before, but it is kind of the biggest city around. It's definitely the biggest city in the province of Xander. It has a large trade routes that come in through a naval port. All the kind of roads of Xander all kind of meet and come through this main Kingsway path into the city, and is divided into an upper Arendelle of a very classist system of upper Arendelle and this high nobility and wealth, and then the regal areas and the royal line, and the kind of slums and the lower slums and the more trade and market level area, where Mary actually came from.
I was going to say one of our parties from there, actually.
Yeah. So it was an interesting introduction for Mary, who had a little bit of knowledge, so I could kind of lean on Leah, and Leah could then ask a bunch of questions to me to aid kind of pulling you in that direction. So it was good to give her that kind of like, okay, I can kind of carry things through this city because I know, or I should know this, and yes, you do know this. Away you go. And then I also have Neavir kind of whenever I wanted to, I'd pop Neavir back in and be like, here's the next part of this kind of Seals quest, to which brought you to this temple of Pelor in the upper Arendelle region, where she had not really told you exactly how, but she knew there were some powerful weapons, some powerful items beneath the temple. There was I guess a champion of Pelor's grave or monument was kind of hidden down there.
I literally read Champion of Pelor in my note here as you said it. Yeah.
There you go. So you guys delved down there into this kind of like very mini dungeon crawl, and found some very key items that came out of this. They weren't relics. They weren't what Neavir thought they were. Clearly having been taken. It was very obvious something had been taken from this place. But all these other items were left behind. And one of them being likely the most important, I think, in our group, being the Sunblade that you ended up picking up.
I remember seeing this thing. I had known about it. Obviously, just Scott had known about a Sunblade. And then when you introduced that, I was like, oh, fuck, I want that so bad. But you're in a party and you're like, you got it. But I think I just gingerly said, like, would anyone mind if I took that? And maybe people didn't know how cool it was. Leah was obviously just way too nice because she probably knew. But
she did not know. And when she finished the game, I was like, you're an idiot. How did you let Valentine walk away with that blade? And she's like, what?
Okay.
I was like, oh,
I was so happy.
Nice. I was like, that's the dumbest thing you've ever done in D&D.
I think that the Sunblade allowed, it was a finesse weapon too, so I could use my dex instead of strength. And so Val got his lightsaber, and I have in my notes here, it says Heartbreaker. That word ignites the blade. There's a celestial word on the hilt, blah, blah, blah. But I just immediately loved it. And I remember talking to you and saying, what if instead of this golden blade, because it's mine, could it kind of work with my magic and be pink? And that led us down a whole path of Valentine eventually finding the Summer Queen as his patron. Yeah,
ultimately, honestly, I had not considered Valentine taking the blade. Because your bardic class, it was a lore bard. I don't believe you had proficiency with the weapon. So I just never had considered you picking it up as yours. And I think in the process of you getting that, you were looking immediately, like pulled Valentine in a totally different path.
You know what I think it is? I think longsword, I have a proficiency to because of Elven.
But you're half elf.
Oh, maybe that was it. Then I have no idea. Sorry, keep going.
Maybe you could have it in another way. Like I don't remember, but regardless, I thought if it was the reason you're like, I want to use that, I immediately kind of remember the conversation of like, you're so obsessed with it. You wanted to like, you had the design of it coming out like a heart burst in this kind of pink light. And you went down the path of a hexblade. With the Feywild with Titania, the Summer Queen, and that was a really interesting moment of the early campaign for me because it was so much kind of on the fly changing of my kind of perceived
thought pattern.
My perceived notions, my perceived story, and it didn't ultimately affect anything, but it was a good early lesson as a DM that being able to make those decisions and working with the players to make something that we were both came to a happy medium, and it was never a no. It was always, let's find the way to do it. that I've been like kind of championing in any of these like talk videos we've done. Like I was very happy, and obviously that has informed Valentine's character through the entire game.
Nothing was more significant to him than that. Yeah. Like that was it. So let's keep moving. We get these things. Now we got some weapons. The next thing here was go to the mountains, find Null, whatever that is.
So there was a city not far. Well, it was actually a couple days travel to the east, where I think it was called Dawnbridge.
Yep. Where
I don't honestly even remember how we ended up getting there. Either came from Nevir having kind of communed with Pelor to get the answers, and it might be more this, hobgoblins and goblins had more or less sacked the city, and people were fleeing, and the word probably spread through the city, and you guys probably heard it more through rumor than anything, or people coming into the city talking about the attack. Regardless, you end your way there. That's all. Well,
you made a good point. I actually remember this. You did such a cool job. We visited an oracle, and she stared into this crystal ball thing. She had this vision. I have it written down: whole town city ravaged, goblins, hobgoblins, and we got this vision of Malgrim, this hobgoblin captain with a flaming red axe, and he said something like "Null will rise," and we were like, "What the hell does that mean?"
There you go. That's how we did it.
I also, just as an aside, got a beautiful black horse for this journey, which started a very persistent trend of all horses we got dying, just all mounts we got dying.
Always a terrible idea for mounts at all in any game. Unless they're magical mounts, they will die. So yes, you guys make your way with this oracle, this vision, scrying vision, and you make your way to Dawnbridge, and you do find the city has been completely sacked by this hobgoblin leader named Malgrim, and all these goblins. And this was you guys kind of stealth into the city. You're trying to figure your way around things. You find a secret way into what would be kind of the manor of like the magistrate's house, and there's a moment that we all very vividly remember and have brought up on stream, I'm sure, in jokes and passing. There's a moment where you guys are standing outside of like a throne room kind of area.
Yep.
And you can hear conversation on the other side. And you can very clearly hear leader, multiple big enemies, grouping everyone together, kind of issuing orders and a plan. Gord had, as a druid, kind of amassed a small army of wolves through multiple journeys, but regardless, he had several wolves with him, and they were his kind of pack. It was a whole thing, and
we're on either side of the door. Just like you said, we've stealthed all the way here.
You've done an expert job, and we've spent a whole session with this slow crawl to learn all this information, set you guys up to like have all the information you need to continue stealthing and help the people out who are still attacked, are still trapped, and get down into the mines where Null is being raised by Throatier. You've got all the information. You're good to go. And then Hando kicks in the fucking door.
Starting a vicious trend in our game of Hando, a rogue, a stealthy rogue, just at any time in any sort of dungeon sneaky situation, blowing our cover and being like, fuck it. But it started our name of him being a wild card, and just like, it's fun for the game. Like, as much as that Valentine hates that shit, I think Valentine and him got in a fist fight afterwards because please explain, like, we barely won this fight. It was like we were in such a small space fighting, and just everyone's an enemy. It was crazy.
I was doing my best before to establish that this was the biggest, toughest motherfuckers of this army have all amassed in this room, and it's all the leaders, all of the biggest guys and the actual leader, and like they're gonna go out and issue the orders. These are the leaders. If you go in there, it will hurt a lot. You will probably not walk out. And
slugfest.
It was a brutal fight, but you won. You ended up winning. All of Gord's wolves sadly perished.
They all died.
I don't remember. I'm not going to pull up the notes. I feel like Hondo went unconscious. I think you probably went unconscious.
I went unconscious for sure.
Everyone was just like dragging everyone out, but barely survived. it was a really good time, and a frantic battle. But that ultimately led to you guys having an upper hand. Now, knowing there's less leadership, still threats, but no leadership, you kind of aided in rising up, causing a rising up between the hobgoblins and goblins, and they ended up fighting each other, giving you an opportunity to kind of sneak around after resting to free some captured people, and to make your way down into the mines, into this kind of dungeon that had been it was a normal mine that had been kind of excavated, and this ancient doorway had been kind of found after kind of breaking through a wall in this mine. You found like normal mine, and then whoa, crazy wall opening to ancient draconic doorway, and it was into this dungeon.
2 notes before we go in that dungeon. One, we would be remiss to say this defeating the hobgoblin, Hando being a legit psychopath, asked you if you could cut off that hobgoblin's face, wear it as a mask to impersonate him, to try and talk to the other goblins. Insanity.
It did not work.
Did not work.
And later, the face off. He did do that. But later, it comes work.
Back to haunt us. Well, that moment comes back to haunt us much later in our game. We'll talk about it. Not a spoiler, but it is. And then the second thing, here's what I want to know. I've always wondered this. Buddy, what's his name? Malgrim has a huge like red axe you talked about. Hando ended up taking it. And do you remember you made him make some saves with this axe? And I always wanted to know what it was about. Was it cursed or something?
It was definitely cursed. Off the top of my head, I think it was a berserker axe. But I legitimately, off the top of my head, can't remember. Let's take a quick second. Let me look at my notes.
I was so curious. Yeah, take a look.
Let me look at my
quick
notes.
Pause.
I just can't find it. It's just annoying me, but whatever.
That's all right. We'll keep moving.
It was scary.
It was scary. It was spooky scary. Never a good time when the DM makes someone in the party roll something.
Yeah.
And you have no idea what it means.
Mysterious save. Super fun. But yeah, I'm now realizing the difference in my note taking and my layout for a session has drastically changed since January of 2018. So
we get in this mountain, Dragon Mountain. Yep. We find Null at some point.
It was a cool dungeon that I totally ripped off from one of the books that's from somewhere else. And there's some other magic items you do find in kind of a side section where you fight not a beholder, but beholder-like.
Oh, I remember that dude.
It wasn't
was
a specter or spectator. It was one of the other ones. It was not as powerful as a beholder because you guys could not handle a beholder at this level. But there's some cool magic items that you guys get at that. Mary gets Timora's Edge. Gord received his Staff of the Python, I believe, from that horde. Oof. Some good stuff.
Gerard, that's what he named the snake that python becomes.
One of the main reasons of his eventual turn to Orcus. But the core here, that was kind of an aside, is this is a dungeon devoted to this draconic lineage of this Null line. And as you make your way through, you find some more captured people who are to be sacrificed to continue this ritual of resurrection of this dragon. You free them, and you make a little connection with someone from the Evenfall Council, who's kind of like this thieves guild that Mary is also connected to back in Arendelle. They'll come back in a minute. But you guys push forward into the final kind of ritual room. The bones of the dragon are on display as he is officially being raised back, and there's this kind of tethering force to this orb that you've seen Throtir using, collecting souls through sacrifice, and Throtir is kind of floating above. That's actually a good point to note here. Leah writes,
this is why it was even more important.
This is even bigger of a reason why raising a dragon is such a feat. In this world, there was believed to be no more dragons. After the Battle of Dragon's Rend, some 500 years previous or 400 years previous, dragons are gone from the face of the earth. from the face, and for reasons you have no reason to understand at the time, though you do eventually come to learn as we go on in the campaign. So this is very big for a dragon to be returned to the face of Visaria, and ultimately Null is awoken.
We fight this guy Null. I will say in this dungeon at one point we ended up like fighting next to these like crates. It was like a tunnel fight. And then I remember destroying these crates and then afterwards asking you, like, so what is these? I investigate and you're like, oh yeah, those are 3 dragon eggs that you destroyed. And I was devastated for so many weeks thinking, fuck, I just killed like dragons that could have come back to life. I also have here, I remember this being a cool moment because we actually like were working as a team. I remember going down and Gord risking his life, transforming into like a panther because he was a druid, to leap in, like get to my body that was dying and saving me. But I remember we defeat this dragon and we're feeling great. Oof, nothing to worry about anymore.
Fight. Big fight.
Yeah.
All your stuff is more or less expelled. You were spent.
But we win, right? There's nothing else that could happen because that dragon's down.
But the orb kind of flares. The dragon is still imbued with some of that resurrection ability. Its bones rise up out of this kind of acid pit that it had kind of slumped into. Round 2, baby.
So we fight this fucker again. Terrifying. And we managed to defeat it. Throw tier, you had said was like an illusion. He faded away and we fought this dragon. Yeah, crazy.
In retrospect, like I was playing Throw Tier off as big bad. He is super powerful. Every time he's there, he's starting things. He sees you guys and he's like, I'm not even gonna fucking bother with you.
Yeah, who cares?
I'm gonna teleport away. Peace. Or in this case, he was an illusory version of himself, and just like as to show you that yes, Throw Tier is still behind all of this. He's still here, but he's just kind of like doing something with the orb that wasn't doing anything. It was just a bait and switch. Yeah, but he was not there, but it was still connected. But regardless, you win. You win the day.
So, but was that seal broken by him doing that? Was the first seal broken?
Yeah,
there you go.
So there was a chance to try and destroy the orb before it kind of took hold. And I believe, if I remember correctly, you hit it with Heartbreaker, and I think I had Niamh get up and try and do some damage to it, but Niamh just didn't have a powerful enough weapon. The whole point of the delve to get a weapon from beneath the Temple of Pelor was to get something powerful enough to destroy this orb, to stop this seal. Heartbreaker could have done it if you had critted on the orb. It could have sundered the orb, or at least stopped the process. At which point, Throw Tier probably would have had to pop back in, bitch slap y'all. But
so first seal's broken. Then we're not really sure what that means, but it sounds real bad. But we killed a dragon. Yeah, and then we end up heading back to Arendelle. We have like a moment here where we meet Prince Colton. He's one of the direct line, and he's giving a speech in Lower Arendelle. And I remember he's talking about, in your world, there was a tension between orcs and humans and this kind of like rising. You can speak to it more. There was
a war that was very big, a very big war that was pushed forth by the Dalarian line previous to Malcolm and Colton. Colton being the prince, Malcolm being the king. Malcolm's father, Teravainen Dalarian, was a total piece of shit, and he, in kind of classic medieval fashion, just warred against the orcs as they were less than. And there was a large amount of racial hatred towards these figures that had, when Teravainen fell in battle and Malcolm took the throne, he immediately put an end to the war and changed kind of the course of Xander and trying to make these reparations with the Orcish community, and even to a lesser extent the Goblin community, though they were less receptive, the Orcish community was. And connected to your group, the reason Prince Colton is speaking as you guys return to the city to speak on racial hate and attacks in the city, Gord had attacked an orc this orc bodyguard at a pub
Tusk.
you guys were at, Tusk.
Yeah.
The first night you were in the city and almost killed her, ended up in a brawl in the street. Mary and you were pulling people off of each other. Tusk was not killed, and Gord got away, but it was this attack. You guys all kind of took to the shadows for a night after this kind of attack of, I think, partially Brock thinking video gaming in terms of
I'm done with this NPC. I'll just murder them, whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. And it was kind of awkward and weird for a minute, and then it was totally fine. As D&D, as we talk it out, everybody's cool, we move on. But there's consequences, and this was one of them. The Prince Colton giving this speech that eventually gets kind of intervened and pulls you into a little bit of connection with what's going to happen in a future encounter. It was kind of the seeds of these evil, they were called the Blackthorns, the seed of their involvement and their kind of scummy underbelly of racist dicks in the city. Yeah.
But we'll get to that in another one. We do get a summons, though, to the Evenfall Council, which Mary has allegiance to. Yeah. Like you had mentioned earlier, this like real shady, what would you say? Thieves Guild, Assassins Guild?
Thieves Guild is the best way to put it, but as it's kind of played out, Alexander Malaris is this leader of the Thieves Guild. He's this elven leader of the Thieves Guild. And he is basically trying to turn the Thieves Guild turn it legit almost, and is trying to make his way into connections with the Crown and be on the council and try and basically become master of coin or master of the seas on the harbor in the King's Bay, where the council's kind of tucked away onto the side in this kind of seedy underbelly. Talia is his cousin and an elder.
They're cousins?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No. Oh, God.
Yeah. And she really hates
Talia is
that.
a bald-headed drow.
Yeah,
right?
she's a total D-bag. Definitely more on that assassin side of Thieves Guild. She was just totally against going legit, thought it was basically blasphemy. And as you guys came in as part of kind of related to Gord attacking Tusk and connections with Evenfall, basically they were trying to right a wrong, and it kind of goes poorly, and you guys are forced to get out of Dodge of Arendelle for a while altogether.
Yes.
Again, a little weird, but it plays out and it's still fun. And essentially, between Alexander and Talia and your party, there's a big clash. You guys run off, and things kind of happen in the background as you guys take to the seas, and you just kind of get out of Dodge and you start sailing, and you make your way around to this eastern coastal city called Rogue Point that was near Dawnbridge and a location you had sent some of the prisoners to kind of flee to out of Dawnbridge when you were freeing them. But you make your way to this city, and there's a couple of games of you guys as players learning a bit about the balance of D&D and of your consequences, not only affecting the game, affecting yourself and your character, but the rest of your party get affected as well.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out, especially when this Tusk stuff went down, and then at that council, basically the council was pretty much being like, all right, man, if you apologize, it's all good. And Gord was like, fuck you, I don't apologize. And that was tough because we didn't want to fight this council. And then fortunately we ended up just escaping, kind of Gord repenting a bit, us begging for his life when we leave. And then, yeah, we land in this place, Rogue Point, and we kind of like mended this little like, okay, we still have a mission. We're still traveling together. Let's keep the band together. But we catch wind of this ship coming back to the harbor, and everyone has been demolished, murdered. And there's one dude who says,
smoking and coming into town, and it's on its last legs. It barely makes it into port.
Yeah, and they say that there's a survivor of an attack by the Witch Queen, Syrah. Yeah. We're like, what the fuck is that? That sounds like a plot hook we got to check out.
That's right. So it was Rogue Point is kind of like not a pirate city, but a pirate city adjacent, a legit pirate city. They're all about trading. It's a fishing and trading and merchant community, but there is definitely an element of piracy, an element of Thieves Guild in Zentarum presence to pull from actual D&D guilds. And Sierra the Witch Queen was not connected to any of that, but she was this just dark, spooky figure to throw at you guys and say, hey, look over there. That's a character that needs killing, huh?
So we went after her. We end up on this place called the Isle of Faces, the Island of Faces.
The Isle of the Faceless.
Sorry, the Island of the Faceless. We end up tracking down to this dungeon. But then it gets real spooky. We end up finding her, and she's clearly doing some sort of weird-ass ritual with our first encounter with one of these gems.
With the gate gems. Yeah, this was my first kind of introduction to this greater plot thread that was meant to kind of be just an element, especially early on, was just supposed to be an element of intrigue and an element of weird and kind of this ancient, odd magic that you weren't going to understand unless you rolled incredibly high or did some active investigation to kind of discover what this meant. At the time, it was a weird portal gate that Hando ran through at one point because Hando runs through doors.
Fuck me, I can't believe he did that. But I can believe he did that.
Of course you can, yeah. Into an abyssal plane, what was to be the plane of, I don't remember the actual name, but the plane where Juiblex, the god of, or the demon lord of
oozes, right? Yeah, oh god.
Was kind of chilling. He pulls his way back out. You guys battle with Sierra and kind of her men who are actively trying to get this gem out of this.
She pops wings, which was terrifying. Yeah, she pops bat wings.
She's a cool character. I like Sierra a lot.
We end up defeating her.
Yeah.
We feel great about it.
Yep.
I would like to tell this side because it's so funny and fucked up. So we steal her ship. Yep. We end up taking over her ship. We learn she has a connection to Gambino. And Gambino means something because that's Hondo's. Yeah, good point by our producer, Leah, here in the background. We take this spooky gem. We end up, I think I mage hand it into my bag of holding. We know it's real scary. We go on the ship. We go back. Sierra, we somehow find out she has an allegiance to Gambino. Gambino important because that is who usurped Hondo's captainship from his previous life. You want to touch on Gambino here for a sec? Any ideas you have on him?
Well, my ideas of Gambino were formed entirely by Hando saying he had a nemesis randomly one day.
Yes.
He just said he had someone won his ship in a game of cards and that he would get his vengeance.
Yeah.
And
that ship being the Floppy Salmon.
The Floppy Salmon, of course, R.I.P. But he just kind of tossed it out, and I was like, I think I asked him, okay, well, what's this guy's name? And I think he said Gambino. I think
he said Gambino the Childish.
I added the Childish.
Okay, that's fucking dope then. Yeah,
because he was like,
Gambino.
It was when
This Is America?
This Is America came out, and that's what we were listening to, and we were all talking about it. So he named him Gambino, and Gambino the Childish was born with no anything. But I was like, he's going to be a major component now.
Yes.
I am now currently writing Gambino the Childish into this campaign in some major way. This was the major way. When you guys returned to Rogue Point with Sierra, with this gem, having accomplished your mission, you deposit her with the city guard. Job done. We're great.
Well, this is what I was going to say. Valentine, feeling fucking great. I'm blasting like Eldritch Blasts off the ship. I'm like doing sparkles and stuff. I'm feeling great. Yeah. And we stroll into port and I say, what I didn't know as bad is I dropped the name Zentarum to someone. I was like, yo, fuck off. The Zentarum told us to like go do this. So like, it's all good. And they were like, hey, you're all arrested.
That was not a good play. That was not the words to use with actual guards.
So Valentine's big mouth, not for the first time, got him in trouble. We ended up in jail, I think.
You talked your way out of actually being imprisoned by bringing Sierra in and showing off that
that's right.
We did do the thing we said we did, just not for them, of course. Never. No.
No, never.
Using your silver tongue. You get out of imprisonment and you're kind of pulling your way out of the city and through kind of a aligning of the stars in a horrible way. You were attacked by some assassins sent by Talia to kind of bring you down as retribution, as she basically had kind of pulled away from the council after your encounter with them. And it was a weird fight, and I don't even remember, honestly, the circumstances of after that fight. Gordon Hondo ended up trying to steal a ship and like killing 2 guards.
Yep.
It was more or less it. And it was like the guards, like other guard, it was broad daylight. It was like noon, and they're just shanking guards on a ship.
Yeah. Another moment where we had to be like, guys, we're supposed to be the good guys here. You can't be fucking killing just innocent guards.
From the highest of highs, just dive bomb to the lowest of lows. And it was
polars.
We gotta run again. We
gotta get the fuck out of here.
Stole the ship, took off into the sea again, and eventually made your way back to Arendelle once more. But ultimately, it was fine. Returning to Arendelle, we had another kind of conversation about, like, I think you actually in character had a conversation of like, yeah, we're the good guys. Remember that? We're supposed to do that.
If you guys are killing these people, we can't be hanging. Quick NPC shout out before we did that. After we got out of jail, we met up with the Gray Lady.
That's right.
Was a really cool. Do you want to just talk about her? She had this manner, and this is just someone you described an NPC that, even though we were with her for one episode, I was in love with. Just like, you could tell this person has history. They have prestige. Yeah,
the Gray Lady is a former adventurer, former pirate, former captain who retired on her laurels and her gold, and basically was one of the founders of this city, and had basically just kind of sat back in this rather large estate and looked out over the city, and kind of was an unofficial like leader with no actual leadership role. But many people look to her for advice and counsel. And she had some interesting connections to the Evenfall Council, and specifically to Alexander, kind of an ally. So it was kind of a recommended place for you guys to check out and stay if you needed a place to lay low and stay. It was recommended that you head there. And the one night you did, and she's just a really fucking suave, cool character that you guys just got on with, and eventually she's kind of remained as part of someone I pull back every now and again as just a cool character to have around.
So then we get out of Dodge, though. We get back to Arendelle, and I think that's about 20 episodes there. That's where we.
That's about it. But just one minor note. One minor note as we kind of are going to close out the recap. You guys hear as you return back to the city, what happened when you left Rogue Point?
Yeah.
What I had intended to happen when you guys returned with Syrah and the connection to Gambino, all those days, all those weeks ago when Hando had dropped Gambino, I thought, all right, well, he's with Syrah. He's going to come for his queen. And he did. You guys just weren't there to defend the city from a tirade of an attack of a pirate king showing up with full force. He leveled Rogue Point in flame and ash.
And we hear just rumors. Yeah, it's in ash. It's destroyed. There's talk he had a flying ship. There's talk it's smoldering ruins. And we were just like, did we do that?
Yeah.
That's on us.
Yeah.
Like,
it was simultaneously a moment where I wanted to say, like, again, actions have consequences. But like, also, like, there are big forces in this world
that you don't understand yet.
That you sometimes don't understand. And if you push too far, you get burned.
Yeah. Here's a little tease for recap video 2. Allie joins the party. You'll get to learn about Elena Brolin.
That's right.
We get to learn about major moments in Arendelle when those Blackthorns we mentioned get up to some trouble. And as well, I think we're closing out recap video, our next one, with the Valentine arc, the famous Verdansia
That's a big one for us. That's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah, which was a lot of our favorites as we dove into Valentine's backstory. But I know we talked a lot here. If you have any questions about anything, we love hearing them. We would love if you put them in the comments below, whether it's about individual characters, whether it's for Kyle as a DM doing this for the first time, creating this whole world. We'd love to read them, and we would answer them directly, either in our next video or literally in the comments below.
100%. You very obviously, if you made it to this point, we love to talk, and definitely love to talk about D&D. So shoot us a message on any platform. We'll do our best to respond.
Kyle, when do we release our videos if anyone wants to catch up with our current stream?
Check out our new episodes Tuesdays. And these videos are coming out on Thursdays or Sundays, Scott.
You know what? You'll probably drop them on Sundays just to space it out as much as we can.
Give Thursday its proper due.
That's right. Give Thursday the respect it deserves.
That's right.
That's all for us. If you want to see any of the wildcards past what we talked about in the episode 1, all of it is available free on the channel, obviously. And if you like this content, please do subscribe. It really does help the channel out. But Kyle, I think that's it for you and me. We'll see you in our next one.